Hi there folks, today I'm going to look at a castle, that probably thousands of people drive past every day, and one that is kind of largely ignored and forgotten. Now, I'm in the Lanarkshire town Strathaven, and I'm going to be looking at Strathaven Castle, also known as Avondale Castle. And I'll give you a wee look. Now, the road that's passing in front of it is the E71, the main road between Kilmarnock and Edinburgh, or the old main road between Kilmarnock and Edinburgh. And you'll see there the castle is literally yards from the side of the road. The castle, if you look it up on the internet, is labelled as permanently closed, but let's go and see if we can find a way to get a closer look. Now, if you go down here, down the left hand side of the castle, now Stonehouse is that direction, so if you come in from Stonehouse, you go down the left hand side of the castle, there's a wee path that goes round the back, and we're going to go down there just now. Now, this takes you around the rear of the castle, and you'll hear on my left hand side is the cow mill and burn. Now, the castle sits on a mound on the bend of the cow mill and burn. And by the looks of it, it's been a kind of like a moat and bailey construction, with this being the banks of the moat and the castle being sitting up there. You see the slope there. It's a pretty regular slope all the way around, and there's a flat top on the mound, but we'll see if we can get up and have a wee look round. If you look at the burn there, you can see the castle up here and the slope. I reckon it's either man-made or heavily shaped by man. You'll see on just the opposite side of the burn there, there's some old stonework. Now, the main entrance into the castle is on the front, and that's gated and closed. But at the rear, just off of this pathway, is a set of stairs going up. Now, you'll see that it is barricaded, but there is a wee path round the side, and we'll head up here with a bit of care, watching not to slip. Once you're on the top, you're greeted by quite a spectacular stone castle. And I'll just flip you around and let you see. You see the round tower there. And the inner area of the castle. You also see these earthworks. There's a wall being there as well, and these earthworks next to it. And they're all flat on top. There would have probably been something on here. The origins of the castle are not certain. It is believed to have been constructed by either the Baird family or the Flemings round about the year 1350. Now, like I said, it was constructed on a mound that was on a bend of the Powmill Burn in Strathaven. Sometime after the castle's construction, it passed to the Sinclair family, and then sometime possibly around about the 1400s it passed to the Douglas family, the Black Douglases that is. At that time the Black Douglases were a massive asset to the crown in Scotland. As you'll know, that James Douglas, Black Douglas, he was basically one of the main supporters of Robert the Bruce, along with Angus Og from the Isles. Now, the Black Douglases continued to support the crown, providing military support and backup for all their campaigns. And because of this, they were rewarded generously with lands and titles. Even Strathaven itself, round about 1450, became a royal borough as a thank you to the Black Douglases. But the Black Douglases were becoming too powerful in the eyes of the crown, and things were soon to change. In 1455, it was decided by James II of Scotland that he was going to finally address the issue. And in 1455, he led a campaign against the Black Douglases, and they were stripped of all their lands and titles, including here in Strathaven. Now, according to Gray's Chronicles, in March 1455, the Douglases' castle here at Strathaven was seized by the forces of the crown. The castle was destroyed and burned, and all the possessions were seized and became property of the crown. Now, after the Douglases had forfeited their lands across Scotland, their lands here in Strathaven were granted to Sir Andrew Stewart, and he was made First Lord Avondale. And in 1458, he rebuilt the castle here at Strathaven, and a lot of what you see around you today is possibly the work of Sir Andrew Stewart. The castle here at Strathaven was in the hands of the Stuarts until 1534, when the third Lord Avondale was having a feud with neighbours and was forced to exchange the barony of Avondale for the barony of Ochiltree in Ayrshire, and the swap was done with Sir James Hamilton of Finnart. And Sir James was renowned as an architect, and when he took control of the castle, he took steps to make additions and strengthen the castle. So what you see today is probably largely the work of James Hamilton. The castle would remain in the hands of the Hamiltons of Finnart until 1611, when they were sold to James, 2nd Marquis of Hamilton, and it would remain in that branch of the Hamilton family for the next 300 years. The design of the castle was pretty unusual for tower house construction. It was designed and built on the plan of a parallelogram with 2 towers. Now, one you can just see behind me, the circular tower, that's the surviving tower in one corner, and then diagonally opposite in this corner would have been situated the 2nd tower. It is believed to have been 5 stories high, with walls 10 feet thick and battlements that were 5 foot higher than the roof itself. The ground floor where we're standing just now would have been for storage and cooking, as with many castles. The floor above, the first floor, would have had the main hall and principal accommodation, with the private accommodation for the lord and his family on the floors above it. You can't really make out much on the walls because, as you'll see here, they've concreted a lot of it in probably the last 100 years to shore up the structure. You do get this quite nice archway here as well. Now, the castle was surrounded by a wall, so like a sort of moat and bailey, it would have had a compound round about it. That's where there would have been quarters for the servants to live and buildings for servicing the castle. Now, that would have probably have been like your blacksmiths, farriers, etc. Within the compound was also built a mill by the Hamiltons, and in that, you actually walk past that on the way in. That's down, just down there. The mill still survives, and it's actually an arts centre today. And I think that was built in 1650, I believe. Get a good look at the castle from here. But we'll go a wee look round and give you a kind of closer look at the structure. Now, this here in front of us would have been the position for the 2nd tower, which hasn't survived. You'll see the surviving tower over there, diagonally opposite. You can go down this side. Looking down onto the A71. It's a lovely structure. Some of the surviving windows, and you'll see here there's gun slots here and one above. More gun slots there. Another one just up there. We'll just come round here. There, more. Another gun slot just there. Some quite impressive foundation stones, really neatly carved and running on a nice slope there. There's a wee bit of an archway in there. Just in there, it's all been stoned up. This here, on top of this mound, would have possibly have had the accommodation and service buildings that surrounded the castle, as well as down where the mill is below. The castle was the second family residence of the Hamiltons until the 1650s, when it became the primary residence of Anne, Duchess of Hamilton. The reason for that is she was expelled from Hamilton Palace by Cromwell's troops during Cromwell's occupation of Scotland. And the reason for this is because she was a staunch royalist and was firmly against the parliamentarians and Cromwell. It's said that when the Duchess was staying here at Strathaven, she fired at troops as they were moving past the castle, heading between Hamilton and Ayr. And that would have probably been on that road there just in front. Now, when the general in charge of the troops was told who actually stayed in the castle itself, is meant to have exclaimed, "She must be a bold woman indeed." And she must have been. I don't think any action was actually taken against her for that, or certainly there's no record of any action being taken against her. Now, after Cromwell's death, Scotland and England came under control of the Crown again, and in the latter part of the 1600s, Scotland would suffer further upheaval. These were the times of the Covenanters, which would be known as the killing times, where people were persecuted because of the way they chose to worship and who they recognised as head of the church. Complicated subject for another video, but anyway, this area of Scotland, Lanarkshire, Ayrshire as well, all across southern Scotland, were the main Covenanter centres, and Strathaven has a lot of history attached to the Covenanters. During that time, you could be executed on the spot for being a Covenanter, and one of these executions actually took place within the castle itself. The castle at that time was garrisoned by royalist troops or government troops that were out to crush the Covenanters, and a Covenanter called William Patterson, he was shot within the castle walls. I believe that was 1685. He is actually buried not too far away, just a few hundred yards across there, in the old graveyard. There's another Covenanter buried, or at least one other Covenanter buried in there. I'll go in there in another video and we'll have a wee look round and I'll show you the graves and do a little bit on the people themselves, but that's just some of the history of this castle here. A lot of it sadly largely forgotten, and people just drive past this every day on their way to work, or just genuinely travelling between east and west. After the Duchess's death in 1716, the castle was used by the inhabitants of Strathaven as a church, a marketplace, and even a court. But it soon fell into disrepair as it was becoming neglected, and sadly started to decay rather rapidly. In 1736 the turrets were struck by lightning. Then in January of 1737, on a night known just simply as the windy night, a large part of the roof blew off, and that would have sealed the fate of the castle. Then in 1740 the castle gates were removed to the Hamilton family tomb, and after that the castle became a source of building material for the local people, and a lot of the stonework was robbed away for the building of houses and walls. And you'll see the sheer amount of it that has been removed, but at least they had the decency to leave us a wee bit for us to see in 2020. There is a sinister story associated with the castle as well. It is said that the wife of a past lord had displeased him so much that he had her walled up alive within the castle. Now, when some of the walls collapsed in I believe the 19th century, they actually found human bones, which gives a wee bit of support to the story itself. There's also, like many castles, stories of ghosts associated with this, which is a topic for another video. Don't want this one to go on too long. Now that's me leaving Strathaven Castle, just heading back down these rickety steps. Well, hope you enjoyed that wee walk round Strathaven Castle. Hope you enjoyed the wee bit of history. I'd like to encourage people to experience Strathaven Castle for themselves, but I do so with a note of caution. It is marked on the internet as being permanently closed, and that is probably for good reason. The access points aren't exactly the best, and the masonry isn't in the best of condition, so if you do come, just take care. So until next time, take care and slange.